Warning. Each episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, will contain descriptions of acts of violence or of a sexual nature and are for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off the internet or from some television show. These facts I'm retelling were presented to me by the victims of the crime or the perpetrators who committed the crimes. My descriptions of the crime scenes are what I saw with my own two eyes. If you are going to get offended, turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. I'm your host, Woody Overton, and
Jim, the Hitman Rathmann. How's everybody doing today?
So y'all, we're here, Jim and I, and if you're in the crew page, you know it already. We made our partnership official, and all the Real Life, Real Crime logos and merchandise and everything is, and now if you read the fine print, it says Real Life, Real Crime, Woody Overton and Jim Rathmann. So that's official. That's the first thing I want to say. Second, I want to say,
very excited about that.
Yeah, it's going to be a great thing. And secondly, I want to say thank you to all our fans, you lifers. We love you. Your Patreon members, we love you. Everybody. And thank you for supporting us and listening and liking and sharing. We passed 500,000 downloads last night, Jim.
That's unbelievable, but we're going to get to 1 million very soon. But we got all you guys to thank for that, for sharing the posts, supporting us, all the wonderful comments. We couldn't do this without you guys. We thank you and we love you for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So y'all, that's 500,000 in just over 8 months, and we're growing at a phenomenal rate. I expect that we'll hit 1 million by Christmas. So, which is all a testament to you lifers. We love you. We appreciate you. Jim, just real quick before we do today's episode, just want to touch on Courtney Coco's case. We're dropping this regular episode, and it's late, but because we're waiting patiently, as we can for Courtney's case to conclude. We're hoping to hear something anytime now, but you have to understand Courtney's case is a active homicide investigation. It's not an entertainment podcast. And so, I mean, Jim.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Active homicide investigations, sometimes you feel like, all right, tonight it's going to happen, and then something else comes out. You have to cross all the T's, dot all the I's, and, unfortunately, there's a few people out there that want their answers now. Well, quite frankly, we don't give a crap what you want. We're going to work this case for the family. The family deserves the answers after 15 years. And when the answers are there, and it's rock solid to where we know we're not going to lose this case in court, then the arrest will happen and things will move forward from there. But we're not gonna stop what we're doing just to appease a few people that want their answers right now. Look, if anyone deserves the answers right now, it's the family.
That's
sure,
right.
Not somebody that's only been listening to this for 8 weeks.
Right. And so the thing is, y'all, don't ever think for a second that we've gotten off Courtney's case, because we haven't. We're still getting calls. I got a tip. Like 3:00 this morning, a phone tip that came in, and it was, a lengthy one, and all these things still have to be looked at. So, but y'all continue to like it and share it, and we will bring this case home when it's the right time, and hopefully it'll be sooner.
We've had stuff coming in all week, and we're working it, and we're gonna get all the information that we can and pass it along to where it needs to go. But we're not off of this case. Well, I mean, it's actively being worked, and we're gonna bring it home.
I mean, equate it if you, and Jim, I know you've been to war, but I want the listeners to equate it. If you knew you're fixing to get into a gunfight, certainly you would want as much ammunition as you could before you go into the gunfight. And so, if the district attorneys and law enforcement wants to take time, because Courtney's been deceased for 15 years. They want to take time and gather up a few more bullets as this information continues to come in. That's the way it's going to be, y'all. So we don't have to say too much more about it. So until then,
that's great, and that's a great way to sum it up.
That's right. And until then, what we're going to do is we will drop the weekly episodes like we used to, where we tell stories, and like we're going to do today. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate y'all bearing with us. You know, we're unedited, raw, and unscripted. And so, this is late. We've only one other time since Real Life, Real Crime's been in existence did we miss our Friday deadline. And that was last week when we were still waiting, hoping that we'll be able to bring you news about Courtney. So, but y'all, appreciate you just putting up with us, and you know, we're going to do what we have to do.
Yes, we will.
All right. So
getting it done.
Today's episode. Oh, let me back up for a second. I hope y'all enjoyed the opening music from season 1. I don't want no sugar in my coffee, Lord. It makes me mean. So y'all got that today, and we got a special patron member out there, who requested it and doesn't want anything. And she really gave out of her heart, donation wise, to help us continue Courtney's investigation. So, you know, hey, I love that song too. And it'll continue to be on all Patreon episodes. So you know who you are out there. That one was for you. And, hope y'all enjoyed it. Everybody else, I know we get comments about the old music every day.
Every day.
And so, but we're going to keep it on Patreon, and tell them, Jim, who's looking at doing something special and unique for Real Life, Real Crime.
Well, I'll tell you what, this wonderful man and his band, Chase Tyler, the Chase Tyler Band. He's a phenomenal guy out of Denham Springs, Louisiana. He makes great music. He's going to be top of the charts in just a matter of time. He's a big fan of Real Life, Real Crime, and at the same time, we're a big fan of him as well. And he's doing wonderful things, and I think he's going to write an original piece for Real Life, Real Crime, and we couldn't be any more excited about that. I think it's phenomenal news. Very excited about that. And if you go to his Facebook page, like his band, and follow him, I promise you won't be disappointed. This guy will be on the top of the charts. It's only a matter of time. And
he's already had a couple hits, y'all, the country music hits. And so you go check it out, Chase Tyler Band. Google him. He's actually been inducted into Louisiana Country Music Hall of Fame the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving at the Texas Club in Baton Rouge. And we're certainly going to try to make that if we're in town. So Chase Tyler and his band, y'all rock, and we love you.
Thank you guys so much.
And so y'all go give him a listen. Hey, he released a song about Louisiana, and if you go watch the video and everything, a lot of that's shot in Livingston Parish. The film footage is shot in Livingston Parish of the swamps and stuff like that. So if y'all want to put a little video to these stories that we tell you about, go check them out. And I know the videos, at least on YouTube. I went and watched it several times. I loved it. It's priceless. So, all right, y'all, keeping in the swamp theme, kind of. Today's episode, it's a tragic thing, but it's a real life, real crime case, but it kind of has some levity, whatever you want to call it, lightness to the end of the story, but it's titled Cajun Queen. All right, so I think
Cajun Queen.
Yeah. I think it was in 2004, Jim. I get my years mixed up.
2005.
It may have been
I get a little smile on my face when you say that, so y'all will understand at the very end.
Yeah.
We're going to save it till then.
All right, so regardless of the year, I get a call. Jim and I were partners in detective. We get a call from Tina Stafford, who was the secretary of the detective office. She said, "Hey, can you come in? We got a guy who has a complaint." And it's all right. And it was a rape complaint. And so we go in, and Tina actually came out and talked to us. She stopped us in the hallway. She said, look, the guy, he wants to file a complaint against, I mean, we know him. She said, I actually have one of his, CDs in my desk. And she said, I mean, he's pretty popular. And I said, okay. And she said, you know, he's saying that this guy raped him. And it's okay. So I said, can you bring him down to what at the time was Stan's office? We didn't have any interview rooms, y'all. It must have been early, Jim, because it must have been 2005 because the narcotics office was still down that stairwell. So anyway, we brought him into what would have been the chief of detective's office, and he wasn't there. So we used it as an interview room also. And this guy, we're not going to say any names, y'all, on this episode because to protect victims, and it's just not necessary. But so we're going to call him Sam. So we get Sam and bring him down to the office, and we shut the door. Now Sam is like, I'm 6'2", and he was taller than me, and
he's probably 6'4".
Yeah, he's a tall guy, but young. And we get him in there. And now look, I don't judge people by their faith or their color or their sexual orientation or anything like that. So this is certainly not about that. But when Sam sat down and we asked him his name and told us his name and you know, tell us why you're here. And he started in, I could tell right away that is kind of, I don't know what we call it, Jim. I'm trying to be politically correct, feminine or whatever. It doesn't matter. You'll see why I'm saying it in a second. But what he said was he went to this guy's house in Livingston Parish, and this guy is a minister or had his own ministry actually. And he said he went to the guy's house, and that the guy pinned him against the wall and took his pants down and anally raped him. And I was like, okay. And I mean, how do you know him? What do you say? He was being kind of standoffish, Jim. I didn't believe he was telling us the whole truth.
He wasn't forthcoming with everything that was going on, you know, and you know, we asked him some particular questions to give us those answers, but he was kind of avoiding it.
There was no doubt in my mind that he was there for a legitimate reason, y'all. But you know, the spidey senses or whatever you want to call them going off, and you know, he was telling us this, and he gave the details of the rape and stuff. But when I asked him how long you knew the guy for, and he said, well, I've been going to church with him, you know, for a long time, and et cetera. So Jim and I went out in the hallway. We excused ourselves and went out there, and I was like, hey, dude, what do you think? And we came to the agreement that, you know, there was more to it. We just needed to like peel the layers back on an onion and find out what this was really about. We didn't know what it was, but we just knew it was something, right, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, some of the times you can tell when you're talking to somebody and you can just see it in them, in their face and their expressions and their body language when they're forthcoming with the information and they're telling you what happens because it's on the forefront of their mind and they're spitting out the information. But then when you ask another question, you can tell the pullback and where they're not really forthcoming anymore, and it's a big stall, and it's an avoidance, and it's trying to divert your attention to something else to get away from that question. And that's what we were both picking up on. And so we knew there was more information to it. Now we got to draw it out.
Right. So our options were, y'all, I mean, if we believe it, the guy Sam was being credible with us and everything, you know, we could have taken his statement and all that and got a warrant for this other, the preacher guy and all that. But we weren't comfortable in doing it until we got to the bottom of everything. So we went back in and sat down with Sam again and let him go through his story again, and just told him, I said, hey, Sam, I have hundreds of thousands of hours of interview and interrogation. I said, you're not telling us everything. I said, you're holding something back. I said, it's about y'all's relationship. I said, listen, I don't care if you're gay or bisexual or whatever, we're not going to sit here and judge you. I mean, we're not some dumb,
Absolutely not.
yeah, not some dumb illiterate rednecks, that are going to judge you if you and this guy have been having sex or whatever. I mean, but there's more to it. And Jim pressed him pretty good. Jim.
Yeah, I mean, it was trying to get him to say what it is that he needed to say, and you got to know that he's got friends in this, and that whatever it is that you need to tell us, whatever it is you need to say, it's going to be okay. You're in that safe space, and letting him know that. And a lot of times when you can get them to feel a little bit more comfortable about the situation and the surroundings, because they are, after all, saying it to strangers. You can make them comfortable and get them to understand that you're there to help. Period. And that's our focus, is to find out what's going on and to help them. Let's hear your story.
Right.
And so we press on that more to get that guard down, get those barriers down, so he can be more open and fluent with his conversation.
Right. And so what he does, y'all, he admits that, he has had sex with this minister before, and we press just a little bit more, and we're like, we're okay. I mean, just because you consented to have sex with somebody before doesn't mean that he didn't rape you this time, right? I mean,
Exactly right.
I believe he was telling the truth, but I said, what else is there, dude? I mean, you're holding on to something. He just kind of hung his head, and he was real soft spoken. And he said, you're right. We've had sex before. And I said, well, when was the first time you had sex? And he said, I was like 14. I was like, oh shit, here we go. And I said, tell me about that. And he said, well, it's going to be more to tell. And I'm like, okay, we're all ears, dude. We're here to help you. And Jimmy, you want to tell what he said?
Yeah. He went on and said after that that there was it the niece and the nephew?
Yeah. Yeah.
That they basically had been, the niece and nephew, which had been filmed, having a sexual relationship done by this minister. The minister was recording it.
Right. And y'all, what he said was, it started on Sundays after church, and it was generally during the summertime. It started during the summertime, and when they didn't have school the next day, and he was very close friends with this guy's niece and nephew, and he got invited over on Sunday after church, and he said it started out innocently at first, but it ended up that the niece and the nephew and he would do sexual things together, and that the minister would film it.
Right.
And he said it went on for like, the whole summer, and then it kind of,
it set a pattern.
Yeah, it set a pattern. And he said, and then he said that the minister would just have sex with him. And he said, now the minister didn't engage in the actual sex acts, especially with the female, the niece. But I mean, it is what it is. So now we're looking at a whole bigger picture here. And the niece and the nephew now are adults as well as Sam. And so, It was, I think it was getting late in the evening. It was like on a Thursday. So we took his statement and got as much detailed information as we could, and said, hey, look, do you feel safe? Do you feel like he's going to come over where you're living or something to rape you now? And he was like, no. And I'm like, well, then we need you to just go home tonight. And so we got to reach out to the niece and nephew. Right, Jim?
Right. I mean, at this point, we got all the information we could from him. We went over his statement numerous times, and we got all those facts. But like in any investigation, you have to cross all T's and dot all I's. And therefore, we needed to talk to the niece and nephew, and it was going to take a little bit of time to track them down. So there wasn't much else we could particularly do that night, considering that he wasn't in any type of danger of this person coming over to his house or anything like that. We were going to go ahead and continue the following morning.
Right. And the reason we did that, y'all, is just like on law enforcement on Courtney's case. We wanted to get more ammunition if we could get it, and also validate that everything this guy's saying is true. Plus, if this minister is filming kids, even though it's been many years now, was filming kids, that's evidence that needs to be collected. There's just a lot of stuff in an investigation. It's not like you see on TV. So the next day, we go to the niece first. When we found out where she's living, well, guess what? She's now married, has 2 kids, happily married, has 2 kids, and she said absolutely that she did not want to do anything about it because her parents would kill her. And she said her husband didn't know, and, pretty much just begged us not to say anything about her whatsoever at all. I mean, what do? You have to honor that. I mean, she's like 23 years old.
Exactly. She doesn't want, she doesn't want to come forward with it. There's not much we can really do about it.
And
it's just unfortunate.
Right. And then, no, I mean, it really is really unfortunate, but she certainly said that it happened, and kind of backed up the story to everything that Sam had been saying to a certain degree. And then we find her brother, who is in college, and I'm not going to tell you where he went to college. And he was a senior in college.
He was like 20 or 21.
Yeah. He had a 4.0 GPA, and he's the same thing. He's like, man, my mama and daddy will murder him. He said, I don't want anything on the record, et cetera. And he basically verbatim said the same thing that Sam had said, and that his sister had said. He was like, just don't want it. He said, he said, I'm all man. He said, I'm gonna tell you that. And I'm like, hey, dude, we're not questioning your sexuality. We're alerted that you're a probable victim of a crime. And he was like, I don't want it. I'm not filing any charges, and my family cannot find out, or they will absolutely lose their shit. Well, you got to respect it. I mean,
no choice.
And so, but we go back to the sheriff's office, and we typed up a warrant for the minister's arrest. And we also typed up a search warrant for his residence, because he was still living at the same place that the sex acts took place many years before. And you tell them about the warrant, Jim, what we were looking for.
Well, we're going to look for the evidence. So, how was it recorded on the camcorder? Is it on his computer now? Is it on? Well, I don't believe it was on the cell phones at that time. But where did he have? Did he have it on was it saved on a disk? Did he upload it to an internet email? I mean, we don't know. So we have to go in there and search for whatever it is that he has. It could be pictures. So information could technically be anywhere. Yeah. Within that house.
And y'all, for there's 2 types of offenders profiling on kids. It's situational or preferential. If you're a pedophile, you're one or the other. Now, the situational offender is like the ice cream man who snatches a kid up in the neighborhood and rapes him because the situation was right. They don't plan it out, etc. But this guy, as so many people are, and the big story out of Livingston Parish, whatever, this past week, but preferential offenders, they groom their victims, and they abuse their position of power and authority, whether it's as a minister, a teacher, a cop, whatever. And they get their victims slowly. They introduce them to more things, and once they realize they're not going to go run and tell or whatever, then they get into it. But all under the profile for the preferential offender, almost as important for them to commit the sex act is to record it. And so even though it'd been like, I think like,
they want to relive it.
Yeah. The fantasy and the masturbation to it over and over and over again, it stimulates them mentally, not only on the sexual side, but because they're smarter and they're smarter than everybody else. They've been getting away with this. I mean, hell, it was his niece and nephew, much less Sam, right? So, but they will absolutely record it, and that's what we're looking for. So we got the warrant signed. we got up a couple more detectives, and we went to the guy's house, and supposedly Sam had never seen any guns, and he wasn't a violent guy, even though he said he forcibly raped him. And got to the house, knock on the door. What happens, Jim?
Yeah, he came to the door. So once he came in, we identified him. And we, at that point, let him know, one, we had the arrest warrant, so he was under arrest. And two, we had a search warrant. And then we were going to go in and we were going to start looking for the evidence that we needed to collect.
Yeah. And this guy, y'all, was short, kind of frumpy.
About 5'5".
Yeah, kind of frumpy.
5'4".
Yeah, frumpy, heavy set, whatever you want to call it. And I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, on the forceful rape thing, and Sam's like 6'4".
6'4",
yeah. But not to say that, Sam was lying, right? So, and this guy was like really passive, and he was like, I don't understand. And he was kind of a little bit feminine also. And I don't understand. And I said, well, you know what? We're going to do the search warrant. We'll get you up to the office. We're going to explain everything to you. And so we went in, and actually, we looked for like 3 hours. And
we looked for a while. We searched high, we searched low. We went everywhere that we possibly could.
In the attic, underneath, just
air vents.
That's right. Air vents, crawl spaces. And didn't find shit. Other than some gay porn, adult porn, right? But we didn't find he had some VHS tapes and stuff, and we had to take those because a lot of times they'll disguise the porn on VHS tapes, and they'll put stickers off of other movies and stuff. So we did collect some stuff, but it ended up once after we reviewed everything, there wasn't shit other than some adult porn, which certainly isn't illegal. So we take him back to the office, bring him back to that same office that we had interviewed Sam in. And it's a small office, y'all. It's barely big enough for a desk and 2 chairs on the other side. And, so we advised him his rights and did it on the form, even though he had already advised him, but did it. You have a standard Livingston. Yeah, it's the standard Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office form, and where you advise them of the rights, and you check off each line as you read it. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during a question. If you can't afford one, a court appoint one for you. And so signs it and he dates, and Jim and I sign and date as witnesses. And the bottom part is the consent to questioning form, where it says, I voluntarily consent to, I'm paraphrasing, voluntarily consent to answer questions now. I know, I have a right to the lawyer. No threats or promises have been made to me, blah, 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 whatever. And then he signs it. And we got him past Miranda was a big part. He didn't lawyer up. So I knew right then we were going to be able to do some good.
For sure.
So we start with them, and we start soft serving him. Hey, Sam. Yeah, I know Sam. And okay, tell me about your and Sam's relationship. And then he's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, oh yeah, I think you do. And let's just make it easy. Your charge is a forcible rape. Sam said he came over to your house to borrow some money or whatever it was, and you forced him against the wall and raped him. And he was like, have you seen the size of Sam? I said, yeah, that's what we're talking about. So, at first he said he didn't do it. And then Jim was like, okay, then have you ever had any type of sexual contact with Sam that he could misconstrue as rape or whatever? And he was like, he didn't want to admit to anything. He's like, I'm a minister, and I live for the Lord, and
Again, everybody diverting your attention to somewhere else instead of what is actually going on.
Right. And
that's what he was doing.
And I live for the Lord, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, hey man, everybody in church is an ex something, right? And I'm not saying that you don't love Jesus and that you're not a minister. As a matter of fact, I know you're pretty famous with music and stuff for the church. And I said, but here's the deal. You've got to tell what happened. You got to tell your side of what happened. And I said, have you ever had sex with Sam? He said, and dead silence. And I'm like, again, I said, man, we don't care. We're not sitting here judging you. Judge not lest you be judged. And if you're homosexual or bisexual or whatever, we don't care.
Lord doesn't care about your sexuality.
Exactly. And I said, but the deal is, what we care about is you forcibly raping Sam. And he took that out. He said, you know what? No, Sam and I been having sex. He said, but I didn't rape him. And so when was the last time you had sex? And he said the other night when he came to my house to borrow some money. Okay. So we got him that far, at least to change the story and admit to that they had sex.
Right, because before he didn't, and now he does.
Right. And so he's starting to loosen up a little bit, but he doesn't know what's coming. And Jim, tell him what you did.
So I ended up sitting a little bit closer to him and I started talking to him more about being the man of God and preaching and, just trying to get, basically win his side, win his acceptance, if you will. That way we can really get to focus on what's at stake here, which is like what had been going on with Sam and others in the recording of videos
but for
soften them up.
And you did a fantastic job of softening him up. And then we double closed in on him before we dropped the bomb, which is Sam actually told about the sex acts when they were kids with his niece and nephew. And he was like, oh, and he just put his head in his hands and he's like, oh, like moaning, right? Oh, and I'm like close in and put my hands on his leg and, shoulder to shoulder, almost face to face with him. And I said, hey man, you just got to tell the truth. I said, I know you've been praying about this for a long time. He's going, oh, and I said, you want deliverance? I said, and he just kept doing that moaning thing, right, Jim? He was going, oh.
Kept doing it, hands over his face, like the body language just screamed out. He was just wanting to say what it is and get it over with.
Right.
But you need to accept that it was about to happen.
Yeah, and so I pulled his arm down and gently, and Jim pulled his other hand down and said, hey, I said, look at me, man. I said, look at me. I said, you are a mighty warrior for Christ. So the devil's going to fight you harder than he's going to fight an atheist or somebody who doesn't believe in God or, doesn't care to try to lead people to Jesus. I said, I equate it to deer hunting. I said, for the devil to take you out by these sins that you've been doing all these years, for him to have you underneath those sins, that's like killing a 30-point buck, where it's not hard for him to take out the meth head who curses God all day long or whatever. They're already gone. I said, for him to get you, that's a big prize trophy. I said, why do you think he's been fighting you so hard? I said, but you've been praying about this. I said, tell me that you haven't prayed about this every single day, been being delivered from these sins of the flesh. And he started shaking his head. And now we're making him look at us, right? And so basically, kept pressing him and said, if you want to be delivered, you got to tell the truth, and the truth will set you free. And tell him what happened, Jim.
So at that, he kept his hands down. He looked at us, and he actually started to admit what Sam had been telling us.
Yeah, and the everything, all the way back. And as he started to admit something, we gently questioned him and got it back around to the niece and the nephew. And shit, he said it almost verbatim from what they said, and that it was after Sundays after church, and they would go over there, and then started out a kind of innocent thing, and then they
like watching a movie.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. He got porn. But and I forgot about that. See, y'all, we are unscripted and unedited. He actually started with them on by showing them porn, like VHS porn, and then getting them to masturbate and stuff like that, and then get them to do sex acts with each other, and he would videotape it. Shit, he laid it all out, just like that. And he said it went on for that summer, but he denied that he continued a relationship with his niece and nephew. But he said that he and Sam continued to have sex over the years. So anyway, when he got done saying that, I said, well, you know what, brother? I said, God doesn't always answer your prayers the way you ask for them. You asked to be delivered, and guess what? Now you've been delivered because your ass is going to jail. And he was like, oh, and I said, yeah. I said, you're going in, and he was worried about his brother and sister finding out all that. I said, but guess what? I said, again, God delivered you. You prayed, you've been delivered, because you can't do it when you're behind bars. And so,
free to never hurt another person.
Yeah. So we took him and booked him in, and then we called Sam.
Well, actually, you told me to cuff him first.
Oh yeah, I did. I played the point, where to the point where the rubbing in the knees and shoulder to shoulder to get what Jim and I call the juice out of him. And then as soon as he did it, and we knew we weren't getting any more juice, that's when I said, guess what? Now you've been delivered. I said, Jim, cuff his ass. And took him down and booked him. So, and then we went back to the detective's office, and this is where the name of the story comes in. So y'all remember this. There's a few moments in your life you're always going to remember no matter what. And so we're sitting in the detective's office is divided in two subcategories. There's the main office, and then they had the back office in the back. Now I could tell you it was a Friday because they have a restaurant outside in between Springfield and Killian, Louisiana, called Charlie's.
Yes.
The food is fantastic. And actually, I mean, but every Friday, that's for the fried catfish. That's right. Every Friday, the office would order from Charlie's catfish boxes.
As did the rest of Louisiana.
Yeah. There's a line out the door, and my stomach's growling right now thinking about it. But it's getting late in the evening, and we had that guy in there for hours and hours, and the regular detectives got off at 4. Jim, I don't know, we weren't working nights. It doesn't matter. So we go in, and
we weren't working nights, but we were working the case so we started earlier than we typically did.
That's what it was. We had to, we called Sam in. We were waiting on him to come in. We were going through those VHS tapes and stuff, looking for child porn, waiting for him to come in. So Sam comes in. And Sam's a little flamboyant. And I mean, I don't know how else she describe it. I mean,
that's just his chosen lifestyle. He's,
yeah. Well, he comes in and we're talking to him, and Chuck Watts was in the room, and he actually admitted to that. I mean, that's how he made his living. He was a drag queen. Mm-hmm. And he did shows. So he had the voice and the personality and all that, but he comes in as an entertainer. That's right. Yeah, that's a good point. He was putting on a show. And it's when Chuck and then Calvin Ballard was in there also. And I don't know if Robert Arlen might have been in there. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm looking at stuff, and Jim's typing up whatever, and so Chuck and them.
They've already crushed their Charlie's, a couple hours before.
Oh yeah, we were starving.
Box of Charlie's has been sitting there for a few hours.
Yeah, and so they start to just talk to him and bullshit with him and stuff like that, and he was talking about being the drag queen and doing the shows and getting limos and all this stuff, and that we should come party with them and stuff like that. And Chuck says, and I'll never forget it, Chuck, I call him dear old dad, and Chuck Watts, and he said, "Let me ask you something, Sam." He said, I'll just be kind of curious as to what you and your friends would think about Calvin Bowden right there. And he pointed at Calvin. Calvin looked up and his eyes got big. He said, would they think he's a handsome fella? And Sam said, yeah, he's pretty cute. He really is. And then he turned around and he pointed at me and he said, but that man right there, they would eat him up. He's tall, dark. I have a piece of catfish in my hand. I'm pouring hot sauce on, and I'm looking at him, and he's tall, and he's dark, and he's handsome. And he said he's just scrumptious. Look at him eating that catfish with that hot sauce. He said, he's a Cajun Queen. And I was like, fuck. And y'all have to understand. You have to understand cops. Cops loved rib other cops and joke, etc. And at that time, people were spitting out food. There wasn't a dry in the room, and except for mine. And I mean, I wasn't really offended, but I said, Sam, I mean, it is howling laughter, Jim Rathmann included. And I said, Sam, he didn't know what he'd done. I said, I just want to tell you something. I said, I just really want to thank you. And he said, what did I do, sweetie? And I said, you just marked me for the rest of my entire law enforcement career. I said, I will never live that nickname down, Cajun Queen. And he was like, oh, but you was a Cajun Queen. And it was like, whatever. So we wrap up with Sam and on the Cajun Queen part, y'all. I mean, to tell you how far and how cops carry it. 2 days later, the sheriff called me down, Willie Graves, and we were talking about another case, and I'm getting ready to leave. And he said, hey, Cajun Queen, take care of yourself and stuff like that. And it was another homicide we worked, Jim. It was like a month later, and the Acadian comes in to run the strips. The Acadian ambulance workers. You tell them what happened.
No, hold on. You need to tell them what the sheriff said first.
You
get to that.
You go ahead. You tell it.
So, all right. So you want to tell them about the sheriff, and I'll tell about Acadian.
Well, the sheriff was just like something to the effect of Cajun Queen, take care of whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was. I just remember the sheriff.
You were walking out of his office, and he ended up making a comment. He was getting a follow up on something else, and as you're walking out, he was all like, called you the Cajun Queen,
yeah.
With your catfish and the hot sauce.
Oh, that's right. He did. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And then, so about a month later, you get familiar with a lot of the fire department personnel and the Acadian ambulance personnel. They become your friends because you see them all the time, and they're always there to help you and to help others. So you build those friendships and relationships with them, and sure enough, we're out on a scene, and the Acadian ambulance shows up, and they get out. And as soon as they get out and they see Woody, the first thing they say to him, like, "Oh, it's the Cajun Queen."
Yeah.
Like it just let us know that it's still spreading.
Yeah, it's wildfire. Yeah, it was wildfire, and I even got a radio call from dispatch one night. My call sign was LP 201. They were dispatch LP 201. I said, "Go ahead," and he said, "Can you have the Cajun Queen give us a 1021, please?" And 1021's a phone call. I'm like, damn, I'm never gonna live it down. Never gonna live it down.
And y'all, one thing about Woody and hot sauce. So when you think about people that when they go to work, right? Like I had my little bag that I would carry into the detective's office. It had like a computer, a charger, pens, paper, notebooks, voice recorder. The stuff you need for work. You look at Woody's bag. He's got a computer. He's got his charger, a couple of pens and a notepad, and hot sauce.
That's so funny.
And I can't tell you, this guy would rather leave the house with a hot sauce than he would with his radio. I'm serious. He would forget the radio, but you can bet your ass he's got the hot sauce.
It's funny because I'm at my cabin right now when we're recording this, and Jim's in Orlando. But I had to go outside to get my Yeti out of the truck, and there's 2 cup holders, and the Yetis of one, and my bottle of Louisiana hot sauce in the other. Anyway, all right, but
it's a sensitive item.
Yeah, well, to wrap this one up for y'all and tell you what happened, back to Sam's story, that it really shocked the shit out of me. Let me tell you, first thing that happened was the ministers brother and his wife came to bond him out when they found out what he was charged with, the forcible rape of Sam, and they raised three kinds of hell. My brother wouldn't do that, and that guy's a druggie, and da-da-da-da. And they're thinking, okay, if you only knew what he did to your kids, and of course we couldn't tell him. And then we never violate their privacy like that. But then, I don't, most of the cases like that, especially when you get confessions, other than going to probable cause hearings and stuff like that, or motion to suppress hearings in court, I never followed up with them because we had so many. I mean, and people ask about other episodes that we've done. Jim, like, what happened to that one? I'm like, I really don't know, because I didn't follow up with them. And now, if it's a murder trial, second degree murder or something like that, I know what happens or we knew what happened because we're going to stay there until the jury comes back with a verdict. But on this case, like a thousand other, I didn't know what had happened, and I never followed up, and I didn't keep up with it.
You go through your initial parts until you stop getting a subpoena, and at that point, a lot of times they've taken a plea deal or whatever the case might be, so you don't really know what exactly had happened. You start working your other cases. Right.
I mean, it's one thing that's certain that's going to happen is you're always going to have new cases daily. So I guess it was like.
Well, I can tell y'all, I think for like 2 years straight, I probably had at least, I don't know, 8 to 10 court cases a week.
Oh yeah, that's how I made my extra money. They paid, especially when you're in uniform patrol, you get, if you weren't on the clock, it was your day off. Back then, it was $25 a subpoena, up until 3 a day, but $75.
And I work nights, and so I'd get off at 6 or 6:30, and I'm in court at 8:30, and I don't get home till 4, and I got to be back home.
Exactly, and that was 4 days a week for me, but that's how I made my extra money because we didn't have extra duty details. But so back to it, I stopped at a convenience store off of Highway 90 in between. I shouldn't even say where it's at. I stopped at a convenience store, a real rural place. I'd never been in there before. And I walk in. I was off duty. And I walk in and I go to the counter. And lo and behold, he sees me and I see him. And it's the minister working the cash register. So I didn't ask him, hey, what happened with your charge or whatever, what have you, et cetera. But he didn't curse me or anything like that. And we didn't say too much, but I left. But a couple months later, we ended up arresting Sam on some theft by fraud. That's right. Somebody came in, he used their access debit cards or something like that. So it just goes to, I don't know what ever happened with it, but he confessed to it, at least to the part about the kid stuff and all that. And so it is what it is. I mean, we did another case recently released. I'm not going to go back into it, but evidently this guy's not in jail either. And he gave a confession. So you never know what happens with the DAs and all that stuff, on the charges. Whatever. Oh no! When we asked Sam, Sam told us. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Sam told us. I forgot about that. Sam told us when we arrested him theft by fraud that didn't he say he paid him off or something?
He was paid off. He was paid like some $15,000.
Yeah.
And he went ahead and dropped the charges.
Yeah. Yeah. And that he didn't call me Cajun Queen, by the way, when we arrested him, and that I didn't arrest him for spite either. I mean, we had probable cause.
We had a victim. Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah. So that's it. And he did say that, and that he I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what he said. He got like $15K
and dropped the charges.
And the guy dropped the charges. So, but that's it, y'all. This is different. Certainly a break from Courtney's case, and just sitting around telling you an old cop story with a little bit of humor to it. But it's real life, real crime. That's how it happens. So
that's it, hot sauce.
At least you didn't say Cajun Queen. All right, so You know what? We're going to go do a Patreon episode right now, and I'm going to tell about Hitman. So that how you got Hitman. All right. But y'all, we appreciate you. Sorry the episode's late. Sorry if there's any editing or sound issues. We're doing the best we can. We're old cops. We're not sound. Go ahead, Jim.
And we waited till the end of the day, just in the event if there's any updates. We want to bring y'all an update as soon as we get it too. So to stay patient, stay vigilant. If you're sharing Courtney's story every day, more and more tips come in. The more that it's being shared, we greatly appreciate that. But please don't stop. We're right on the goal line. Keep sharing those stories. You never know whose information is going to come in. Whoever has that tip that leads to the final piece of the puzzle, as it's so close. So keep sharing like you guys have been doing, and we appreciate all the love and support. We're going to keep working this case until it is solved and done.
Yeah, and on the sharing part, y'all, the sharing outside the crew page, there's plenty of posts on there about Courtney. Share it out. Continue to share it outside the crew page, and we get tips. And we're not telling you that we're not telling you that they don't have more than enough already. But I'm telling you that if I'm going into a gunfight, I want every extra bullet I can, so it is what it is. But share it outside the page, and thank y'all for sharing the crew page. We're almost at 7,000 crew members, which is just ridiculous. You go look at some of.
We actually went over that this afternoon.
Did we? Wow, we're doing over 100 a day. Now you go look at some of our friends and our fellow podcasters that have been around for a couple of years and have like really, really big shows, and their pages, they don't even have like 2,000 private members, right? So y'all, the crew page is huge. If you're not a member of the crew, go ask to join it. It's a private page, and we share everything true crime related. And of course, a lot of the focus has been on Courtney, and it's going to continue to be till we get justice for Courtney. But it's a fantastic group. And let me tell you something. We have the best moderators in the world, the dream team moderators. Now, fortunately, some of them come and some of them go for different various reasons, but we love them all. But they will take care of you. If you have a question about Patreon or a post, or, hey, if somebody posts something shitty on the crew page, you can tag a moderator in it, and they'll go in there and they'll handle it swiftly. Unfortunately, when you get 7,000 people in 7 months, because we didn't start the crew page until after like March or something. And unfortunately, when you get that, you get a few people who are turds. They're shitheads, and they're shit stars. And so I'll tell y'all this, because how Jim and I work so well together is he's a yin to my yang. And you heard me say this, in areas he's strong and I'm weak, and vice versa. Well, one of the areas Jim is a whole hell of a lot stronger than me is being diplomatic, because I'm quick. When I flash, I'm like, fuck you, get the fuck off my page, da 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 da. And then Jim's like, let me handle this from now on. So, I guess that's it.
Doesn't mean I can't flip either.
Oh, no, yeah. You really don't want to see him flip. When Jim flips, we're all in trouble. But he's a whole lot more diplomatic than me, and that's great. And so if you're really a turd or a butt munch, and you're out there bad, and moderators have to bring it up, or if it's a dispute or whatever, guess what? Jim Rathmann is going to be the one handling your case.
It's few and far between that it happens.
No, yeah, but it's going to happen.
Keep in mind, there's a lot of stuff about Courtney on there, as it should be, and just know that some of the family's on there too, and you just need to be respectful and understand that, of what they've been going through. I mean, 15 years. My God, I can't imagine 15 seconds, let alone 15 years.
Yeah.
That they've been going through, and so just try to be mindful of that. But mostly everybody out there does a darn good job of that. We really appreciate it. Yeah,
and hey, lifers that remember the crew before we took Courtney's case on, I know, just be a little bit patient with that, okay? Because all her family and friends are on the crew page, and yes, I know the crew page is a true crime genre page, but this one, hopefully won't be much longer. So I don't know what else to say about that.
You gotta understand, we have stuff on there about Courtney, as we should, but I'll tell you, there isn't a day that goes by where I don't wake up, or Woody doesn't wake up, and we look at that page, we look at that photo, we look at the comments from the family and go, I know what my purpose is.
Exactly.
I know what my purpose is, and my purpose is to get out there and make something happen for this family.
Yeah, man.
That poor family's waited 15 years. I'm going to tell you, they are wonderful,
they are
sweet, loving,
great
family.
People. Great
They
people.
really, really are.
They really are our family now.
Every time I see Courtney's photo, it's just a reminder, and it makes me drive and push that much harder. I would do that with anybody else too that we were working with.
That's right.
But Courtney's our focus, and
That's
Courtney's
right.
going to get justice, and we're going to seek it, we're going to find it, and we're going to solve it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much already done, but we just need the finishing touches.
Right. And y'all, we're getting requests from all over the United States, probably 2 or 3 a day, to look at other cold cases and stuff. And it's a lot. But what I tell them, and I'm telling y'all now, if you're out there listening, if you send that in right now, I'm going to respond to you. When we get done with Courtney's case, Jim and I are actually going to sit down, and we do kind of read them as we go through what you send to us and stuff, and we kind of, I don't want to say prioritizing them or whatever, but, and we're going to correspond back with you. But until we get justice for Courtney, we're not going to work anybody else's case. Now, we don't stop sending them, but just don't.
And the reason is you know what? You would expect the same thing. If it was your family member, your loved one, you would want 100% of our attention at all times on
Right.
your family member's
Right.
case. And so, that's just the principle that we live by, and we're going to honor that. Courtney's family deserves 100% of our attention until this is over with, and that's what we're going to do. And then when we move on in the future to the next case, wherever that is, that family will get 100% of our attention as well. That's what they deserve, and that's what they're going to get.
Right. And so, anyway, we love y'all and appreciate you. Bear with us. We're doing some really special things. We really are. And I know we're blessed. And Jim, I'm blessed to have you as a full-time partner now, man. And
Appreciate it, brother.
we're going to do some great things. So, hey, lifers and Patreon members, geez, I got to say it about Patreon, y'all, just because there's no way we could have worked this case financially. And we're not even anywhere near to making a penny. I can promise you that. But Patreon members, without your support, we couldn't have done it. We couldn't bring this case home for Courtney. So we really appreciate that. And all lifers, we love you. If you can't be a Patreon member, we totally get it. Just continue to like us and share us. And leave us a review, y'all, on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And that helps the show and helps us keep us, in the top rankings like we are. And so, I don't know all the other podcasts or stuff I'm supposed to say, Jim, but we love y'all. We appreciate you. And last words, Steve.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for all the support. We're going to keep driving it home. Just stay tuned because it's coming.
Yeah.
I can promise you that it's coming. Okay. Keep Detective Tanner in your prayers.
Yes.
King.
Yeah.
All the law enforcement officers that are out there all around the world. Thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. Same with the first responders. And hey, one other thing.
The military.
On Monday is Veterans Day.
That's right.
And all the veterans that are out there, even though I'm one, I thank you. Woody thanks you.
Yeah.
Our entire crew thanks you.
Right.
We thank, find a veteran on Monday and say thank you to them because that'll mean more than you ever know. Those that have had their family members have lost soldiers and whatnot, we are forever grateful for your sacrifices. And, being a veteran, it brings tears to my eyes. But I can tell you we absolutely love you, and happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there.
Absolutely, man. And hey, Jim, no, I'll talk to you on Monday, but happy Veterans Day to you too, buddy.
Thank you.
And then thank you for your service. And we love y'all, and peace. And until next time or ever, don't let us catch you down on murder by you. Peace.
Peace.